Everybody happy, Tom?
Seems to be.
All right, let's do this once again, calling the meeting to order. While I do not see any guests per se, we do have a new representative, Vanessa Oden. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing it correctly, representing the Community Democratic Club. So, if Tom, you could pull up the oath.
Thank you, Don. Good evening, everybody.
Should be visible.
All right. So if you will kindly raise your hand and repeat after me. I state your name, do solemnly swear or affirm
I, Vanessa Magali Oden, do solemnly affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter,
and during such time as I hold the office of Central Committee member.
and during such time as I hold the office of Central Committee member.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And moving on, I'd like to go ahead and do our land acknowledgement. And I will ask our Mayor, Steve Young, if he is willing to do it tonight.
Sure. We pause to acknowledge the Solano County Democratic Central Committee of the Democratic Party that sits on the land of the Miwok and Patwin people. We remember their continued connection to this region and give thanks to them for allowing us to live, work, learn, and pray in their traditional homeland. We offer our respect to the elders and the Miwok and Patwin people of the past and present.
All right. Thank you. I do see that our first speaker is here, so we will introduce him momentarily. Next up on the agenda that we have approval of the minutes. So for the February 28th, 2024 minutes, hopefully you've all had, Tiffany, see your hands up.
I was just going to motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. All right, there's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Steve, seconds. Go ahead and launch the poll.
Sorry, running a little bit slow, it seems to be. You should have it now.
Right. Okay, has everyone voted?
We still have a few seconds.
Okay.
We'll take it to the minute. All right, it has been a minute. Motion passes.
Thank you. And do you have the agenda available to display?
Mhm. Okay.
Okay. I will just say that Otto Lee had requested time initially, but he did not confirm. So I do not anticipate him speaking this evening. Um, Aside from that, does anyone have any uh, corrections, additions, or deletions they wish to make to the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. It's Paula.
Okay, and is there a second?
Second.
All right. Okay, then go ahead and launch the poll.
Ten seconds left. Vote early, vote often. Motion passes.
Thank you, everyone. Jump back to the main screen. Next item on our agenda, we have Jason Park, who is a candidate for the Democratic National Committee. The State Party Executive Board will be voting on, if I remember correctly, 20 members to the National Committee at the May Executive Board meeting in San Diego. And Mr. Park is asked to come and speak to us and tell us a little about why those of us who are e-board members should vote for him. Set aside 2 minutes for opening remarks, followed by up to 3 minutes for questions. So if we can spotlight Mr. Park, and I'll start the timer as soon as you begin speaking.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair and Solano County Democrats. My name is Jason Park. I really appreciate you all having me at this meeting tonight. I previously worked in the nonprofit space, and I've also worked for our state's youth as a high school educator, and I've served our party as both a Gen Z California Democratic Party and California Young Dems Executive Board member, including being the Bay Area Regional Director of all of the Young Democrats in the Bay Area region. I've served our party in a number of different capacities at all levels. I've tangibly made a contribution towards electing Democrats at every level in every election cycle since 2018. And like I mentioned, I served our party in a number of different leadership capacities at virtually every conceivable level of our party. Again, I really appreciate you all having me on tonight. First off, I want to give a shout out to Miss Bridget Hunley and Miss Lynette Henley, who are some of the over 150 CDP executive board members across the state who have endorsed me for DNC. Some of these other folks include our lieutenant governor, our attorney general, our state controller, our state treasurer, nearly all of our state party officers, including current members of the state assembly and current members of Congress. These are all e-board members and thus having votes in this DNC election, and that's huge because as the chair just mentioned, our DNC members will be elected by our CDP executive board members. As a young AAPI first generation student, an immigrant, DNC candidate officially endorsed by the state Young Dems, representation is absolutely important to me. But I also want to stress that, if I become or if I get the honor of being your next young DNC member, I absolutely have a desire to be taught and mentored by you all. You all have incredible, experience as organizers, as activists, as leaders. And so please know that if you give me a chance to serve on the DNC, I will continually to be, proactive and eager in terms of listening and learning from all of your experience. Thank you for listening to me tonight. I am happy to answer any questions, and I'll drop my information in the chat. Thank you so much.
All right. If you do have questions, please for Spark, please drop them in chat. First question I have for you is, a number of DNC candidates were heavily campaigning for the last several months, including when the primary election was in full swing. So I will ask you, what did you do to support other candidates during the primary?
That's a great question. I've walked with the South Bay Labor Council as well as other labor organizations to make sure that we elect Democrats who are committed to, upholding and fighting for the dignity of all workers. I've knocked on doors, made countless calls, traveled from corner to corner across the state, from San Diego all the way to the North Coast, walking for Democrats who are not only endorsed by our state party, but also endorsed by labor and by Young Dems. And so I have absolutely done my part for this March primary to make sure that we elect good Democrats who, again, share values that I think our party should stand on and should be unanimous in agreement on, including, the dignity of all workers and the importance of, the right to choose and the importance of environment, so many other issues too. And so I have absolutely done my part and actually put my DNC campaign on the back burner so that I can, do my part in making sure that, we do everything we can. We unfortunately saw, incredibly low voter turnout across the state, and that only increased my desire to make sure that I'm doing my part to get out the vote for Democrats.
Okay. Next question. Did you support Proposition 1?
It's a good question. I did not endorse Proposition 1 as a DNC member candidate, but as a registered Democratic voter, I did vote for Proposition 1 because it was endorsed by, I believe, the California Young Dems, and if I'm not mistaken, the California Democratic Party. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Right. If something were to happen to President Biden and he were forced to withdraw, who would you support for president?
I do not foresee President Biden dropping out from this race. We have a Democratic National Convention in Chicago that's in full swing in August, and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, in my strongest opinion, are prepared to accept the nomination for president, vice president, and we also have Democrats across California who are running to be convention delegates, both at the district level by congressional district and also through the at-large appointment process. And so I haven't really thought about the possibility of President Biden not being our nominee because I quite frankly haven't gotten any indication that he wouldn't be running for president.
Okay, and then what are your policy priorities as a DNC member?
I think one of my biggest priorities as a DNC member is breaking down barriers to access and communication in terms of opportunities and resources to get involved at the DNC level, and also communication in terms of, what opportunities are available. I really think that there could be better communication. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring with me to each and every DNC meeting at least a couple of young Dems and rank and file CDP SCC delegates who aren't DNC members, and giving them
Okay.
an opportunity to experience the same kind of benefits that I would get to enjoy.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. And that was our timer. For anyone else who has questions for you, I see you put your contact information in chat. So I would encourage people to follow up and email you, call you, or what have you. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you for your questions and have a good rest of your night. I appreciate your time, everyone.
Looking just to make sure, do not see our other candidate having joined us. So we'll move on to public comment at 7:17. Public comment is for guests to the meeting. All comments are limited to 2 minutes, and additional time may not be granted. Comment period cannot exceed 30 minutes. If any of our guests have anything they wish to say, please raise their hand. Going once, going twice. Seeing no hands up, we're going to go ahead and close our public comment at 7:17. Do we have any announcements that people wish to make at this time? Again, please raise your hand. Julia, I see your hands up.
Hey everyone, I just want to let you know that the Northern Solano Democratic Club is having trivia night on the 20th of April. I will drop a link in the chat.
Great. Kathy Carriage, you're next.
Hi, I wanted to let everybody know that the Progressive Dems of Benicia is doing a fundraiser and having a champagne brunch on May 18th from 11 to 1. So please mark your calendars. Thanks.
Awesome. And Mary Young.
Yeah, I think most people know, but the election last 3 weeks ago, we had a sales tax measure on the ballot, and it passed with close to 75% support. It turns out that there were only 10 sales tax measures in the entire state that passed. And ours passed by 10% more than any other city. So I feel really good about the support we got from the community. We have a lot of work to do to make some additional cuts to try to get our budget back in balance. But overall, I'm very pleased with the support we got from the community. Thanks.
Well, glad to hear it. And Tom?
Yeah, I just wanted to let everyone know that the LGBTQ community of Solano County is getting ready, of course, for Pride Month. Please put on your calendar Monday, June 3rd. We're going to be having a flag raising for the city of Vallejo at 10 a.m. and then also a flag raising for the city of Benicia at 10:30. We will be also raising the pride flag at the Vallejo Naval and Historic Museum on June 1st. So please plan on going there. There will be more dates announced across the county. We'll be trying to get that out there to everyone. But please show up and support. That'd be great. Thanks.
Thank you. And I just want to remind all of our clubs and candidates and affiliated organizations, if you do have information you wish to communicate with the membership, don't hesitate to send us an email so that we can share that to the body as well. Next up, treasurer's report. So Karen, you're up.
Good evening, everyone. I have the March 2024 Treasurer's Report for you. I'm starting with the federal account, and I'm going to wait until I think Tom pulls that up so you can see it.
Give me one moment.
Sure.
Okay, I can tell you this: do not upgrade to Windows 11. Just it slows everything down. That's real. Yeah, got it. All right, sorry.
No worries.
Okay.
Great. Okay. I don't know if you can make that a little bit bigger, Tom. I'm going to read off of my copy, but for others, if they didn't see the email that was sent in. But anyway, I'll start with the federal account. With the beginning balance we had in February of $3,880.32. So we had credits of $915.77, which was an allocation transfer from our state account, which gave us a total credit balance of $4,796. Moving on to our debits or expenses, River City Business Services, which is our CPA and accounting service, $468.97. Our storage unit, which is a monthly fee of $118.99. We had our Google software fees this month. We paid $336 for, I think it was 5 months of services. The Zoom video fees, $326.20. And awards and dinner expenses of $1,170.28, which included all of the items you see there listed: programs, beverages, tablecloths, plates, cutlery, storage, totes, etc., for a total expense of $2,420.44. And then that ending balance, subtracting the credits from the debits, we have a balance of $2,375.65 in the federal account. Okay, moving forward, going to the state account, a beginning balance of $4,601.73 with contributions of, and these were Blue Awards dinner contributions of $25. And then we had our SIEU Awards dinner contribution of $650, which came to a total of $675 when added to the beginning balance. We had a total balance of $5,276.73. Looking at the debits, we had Active Technical Services, 99-cent fee, and then the allocation transfer that we transferred to our state account, to our federal account, $915.77, for total expenses of $916.76. And then again, looking at subtracting that beginning balance from that total debits, we had a state ending balance of $4,359.97. And then, of course, adding both the federal account and the state account, we have a total balance of $6,735.62. And that's our report for March. Anybody have any questions or any thoughts or considerations? Please don't hesitate to ask.
Karen, just one clarification. The Google software fees for that was for 7 months.
7 months, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's what's paid there. There is the bill coming now for the full year starting this month going forward.
March, okay.
Yeah, so I'll be sending you that check request tonight.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions related to the treasurer's report? Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
Moving on to officers' reports. I will start off by congratulating both of our endorsed candidates, Cassandra James and Monica Brown, who are with us this evening on their victories in the primary. And we look forward to attending your swearing-in ceremonies next January, and as well as all the good things you will do as in office. So, and I want to thank everyone who put in all their time and effort in the primary for various candidates and ballot measures. As the mayor said, Benicia was also very successful in its results. So very pleased with the outcome of the elections there. We are moving forward towards as I said earlier, the May executive board meeting will be in San Diego. Among other things, we'll be voting on the election of the DNC members and whatever other business they bring before us. And coming up shortly, we will be having the district level caucuses to elect our delegates to the national convention. I forwarded the email that the state party sent out earlier to all of you just a little while ago. Each congressional district has typically 3 to 5 members, depending on the district. I will defer to our regional director if he has more specific information on the exact counts for our local districts off the top of his head. And basically tell a couple hundred of your closest friends to sign up and register for those caucuses and vote for those of us who are foolish enough to be running as delegates. I believe the date for submitting those is April 21st, but I'm going to punt and actually ask Jeff to speak about that right now. I'm going to take him out of order so he can talk about the caucuses. So Jeff, if you'd like to share any information with us.
All right, so I actually was not prepared because I wasn't on the list yet. So the caucuses are going to be those of you that didn't get the email from CADM, make sure you check your emails because Dawn did send out the registration form. The caucuses are going to be virtual this year. So we are not going to be arriving in a location and voting as we have in the past, 2016 and prior. So make sure you have to register in order to be able to be eligible to vote. That's going to be an important part of the process. So the caucuses are going to be basically online. They still haven't given us a detail. I've been asking CADM for more detail on. I believe that just like with some of the other things that we've done virtually, it does require an in-person component or a real-time component so that you see us receiving and counting the ballots and acknowledging the winners, that kind of thing. I haven't seen how they're planning on doing that at this time. So we will be getting that out to people as soon as they have that information. But as far as the number, I was actually, when Dawn mentioned that, I was starting to scroll through. And so you are in, for the most part, CD4. I'm sorry, is that right? CD4 done?
4 and 8.
4 and 8. So those of you in CD4, we have 3 males and 3 females, and there is 1 female alternate slot as well. And then 8 is exactly the same. 3 males, 3 females, and 1 female alternate slot. So do you have, was that everything that you asked there, Dawn? Or
Yeah, that was the crux of it. And the district level delegates, of course, are just one part of the process, or also election of statewide delegates and their election of the party leader and elected official delegates. And I'm not going to go into that process for either one because it's as opaque as all of the state parties' procedures usually are. But it'll be going on, and the lucky winners will be going to Chicago in August, hopefully.
I do recommend, though, that those of you that have filed for to run as a delegate, it does not hurt to also file as a for at large. Now, CADM has said that a lot of people that are their terminology of party leaders and elected officials is very broad. However, the selection plan actually goes through a criteria in order, and those of us that are party leaders are actually lower on the list. It goes to mayors of big cities and that kind of thing. But it, again, does not hurt to file for the others. The selection of the other of the at-large and pleos, which are party leaders, elected officials, those are done by the caucus of district elected delegates. So those district elected delegates on the 18th of April at eBoard, they will all meet together and they will then select the at-large and pleos. But for the most part, the at-large portion especially is to fulfill our affirmative action goals. So they will start sliding in people based on making sure that we are meeting those affirmative action goals. For example, one of our affirmative action goals, there's a very high percentage that is expected for Latina delegates. It's around 30%, I believe. So if you are Latina, file. you have a really good chance to be, especially in the at-large. But anyway, that's the majority of that part, if that helps, Don.
Sure. Thank you. Bonnie, your hand's up. Do you have a question for Jeff?
Yeah, actually, I have just some clarifications here because, I couldn't find the email that was sent about so first of all, the caucuses, you were not talking about the California Democratic Party caucuses, like the Labor caucus and stuff like that.
These are strictly to elect the district level delegates to the national convention. The party sent an email this afternoon. I forwarded it this evening right before the meeting started. So
okay,
I would
and then
check your email.
Yeah, just another question for the executive committee meeting in June. Is that something that, like, I know I can't vote because I'm a delegate, not on the executive committee, correct? The executive committee is the only one who votes, but is it worthwhile for folks like me to go as like a observer, or can you talk a little bit more about that?
I mean, in a nutshell, it is the convention in miniature. So you have the caucuses will be meeting, committees will be meeting. There will be a general session for the executive board members to attend. But the executive board meetings in San Diego, and you would have to buy an observer pass. So unless you have a burning desire to attend a caucus meeting or two, or three, or 10, and enjoy San Diego nightlife, you probably would not want to spend the money, at least, or maybe you would, but I'm a cheapskate, so I wouldn't be spending the money if I were not.
Well, I have a 26-year-old daughter who lives in San Diego, so that would be my excuse.
There's your excuse. Go visit her and buy an observer pass.
Yeah, okay, thanks a lot.
All right. And thank you, Jeff, for indulging me. Reverting back to our agenda, let me go to our Southern Vice Chair. Do you have anything to report this evening?
I have no report at this time. Thank you.
Thanks. Corey, as our secretary, do you have anything to report other than the minutes?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to our information resource officer. Anything to report?
Just that we are moving to a yearly plan as we approved last year for the Google services. So we'll only be paying 1 month, and washed out. And also we are going to be having a technology meeting next month to help plan out what we're going to be doing for this election cycle coming up.
Okay, awesome. Parliamentarian, do you have anything to report other than the bylaws, which will be coming up momentarily?
No.
Okay, that was quick. Moving on to elected officials reports. Congressman Thompson's report was submitted by email earlier, and those of you who might have noticed it in the chat, unfortunately, his representative Jerry Castanon is absent this evening because his mother passed away. So when the time comes, I will ask that you adjourn the meeting in her memory. So, State Senate. I do not see Senator Dodd's representative with us. Do we have any report from Assemblymember Wilson at this time? Moving on to Supervisor Brown, anything to report in your capacity as supervisor?
I have a new aide, Wanda, and we're just getting my calendar put together, and most everything's in my weekly newsletter. And so enjoying the rain outside.
All right, and we saw the report from Supervisor Williams come in earlier. So I want to thank everyone who submitted their reports in writing. Jumping to our clubs, we have the report from the Community Democratic Club in writing. And again, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Jewish Democratic Club, do you have anything to report?
I want to start by thanking everybody who came out to our event. We had one just recently. It was on Sunday of last week. It was on Sunday of last week. It was on Forum Day, so it was just an amazing holiday experience. We invited the entire community, Jewish and non-Jewish, to the Vallejo Naval Historical Museum. This is part 2 of our ongoing cultural event that I think like our club probably played. I don't mean to brag, but we played the biggest role in helping to organize and facilitate and bringing the community together. A gigantic success. We had, lots of sponsorship from both the secular and religious parts of the Jewish community, as well as from Touro University. So, including, which many of you may not know, Touro has Jewish history, Jewish roots. And yeah, all told, it was a huge success. Rebbe Sol is a world famous musician. He came with his band, and it was immensely entertaining, and everybody dancing. And it was just a huge success. And then we're going to meet again very soon to figure out kind of what's next for us. Probably about time we started focusing on more political things. We've got our name out there. We made a big impact in the community. It's probably time to draw people in a little closer now. But we look forward to reporting more next month. Also, could use a little bit of guidance on the bylaws. We're going to have to go through the submission process just like everybody else here. And I'm hoping that we can, do something really simple. So if there are some we want to go back to being a quarterly club. I think we've been talking about this, meeting quarterly instead of monthly. And we also want to, so we really want a simple set of bylaws that are just going to be functional for our purpose right now for a small club. If there's anyone that can forward me anything, I'd appreciate having something to look at so I can present it to the membership at our next meeting. Thank you.
Don, if you're talking, you're on mute.
Yeah, that was kind of unnerving.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. We have reports from Northern Solano Club, Progressive Dems, and Rio Vista Club are all in writing. So next up, Sankofa Democratic Club. Do we have a report this evening? I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. I don't know if other people are as
Yes.
well.
I'm
Brett?
driving. I'm driving.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. In that case, we'll defer to a later time where you can submit your report in writing. We don't want you to get into trouble while driving. Solano Democratic Workers Alliance. Is there a report this evening?
Not this time.
Okay. All right. Community Democratic Club. I just saw the note. You have an update? Your
Yes,
report?
thank you. Yes, Don, thank you. So the update to our report, we will be holding our swearing-in ceremony at our general session Monday, April 8th, 2024 at 6 p.m. and the Honorable Monique Langhorne will be swearing in. Other guest speakers will be confirmed shortly. And we appreciate all the support we've received from the community as we've rebuilt and rebrand our organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Stonewall, was there a report this evening?
Yes, we'll be meeting on April 18th to discuss Pride Month and other things going on, as well as to start out the season with getting people registered to vote at our Pride events and looking for volunteers to help with that.
Okay, and I do believe I saw a United Dems report for this month. So unless I'm very much mistaken, you're good. So, before I leave the club, I just want to remind everyone that the new term begins next month. And just as a matter of protocol and making sure that we have all of our T's crossed and I's dotted, I'm going to ask that each chartered club submits in writing the name and contact information for their club representative and alternate, if any, even if it's carrying forward the person you currently have, just so that we have a current and up-to-date record for each club. And I know in some cases it'll be changing because your club rep was elected to a position, but regardless, we do want to have that updated. So there'll be communication to come following up on that. Just want to give you that heads up.
So is that via email, Don?
Yeah, email is sufficient. Moving on to standing committees. We have the bylaws committee report on proposed amendments. Just to preface before I hand it over to Julia, as you will recall, we started on the process of dealing with some issues that we were aware of a couple months ago and getting that off the ground. And then just as we were beginning the process, the state party sent out an email notifying us of when the deadline for submitting our endorsement procedures and revisions to be counted as a party's endorsement, which was May 1st, which kind of threw our schedule into a bit of a disarray, but we regrouped and recovered, and Julia and a very capable committee did a review, and they have language that they wish to put forward. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Julia.
Thank you. So, yeah, so Tom, if you can display that, thank you. So we are going to be doing an amendment to the bylaws. This is not a full bylaws review. So this is specifically regarding endorsements. If you'll note, we have a few changes. There are a few more the grammatical changes. Those ones are pretty minor. So our first is adding the notation that, The Central Committee is prohibited from endorsing candidates running for County Central Committee. This is required per the checklist from CADEM in order to be in compliance and get the state party's endorsement. The second added line is all references to partisan primary shall refer to mean voter nominated top two open primary. This is the party's language for what partisan primary campaign means. That being said, we do have a couple other suggestions for things that would make it a little bit more clear, but this sentence is directly taken from the CADEM bylaws. If we would like it to be a little bit less clunky and clear as to what it means, we are open to that. Okay, going down to 904 is really just some grammatical things. Instead of his or her, making it a more gender neutral to include our non-binary folks, adding in some apostrophe or parentheses s, and then this last line being struck is because we added a whole entire section regarding endorsements of ballot measures that will be different from endorsement of candidates, just because the timing of it is different. So all of the lines where you see reference to ballot measures have been struck, and it is any further down part. Again, added in the word designee, crossed out the ballot measure. 906, again, crossed out ballot measure. Keep going down. There is controversy over the 50% plus one, as if it is an odd number of votes, that could mean that you need one extra vote than you actually need. So there is alternate proposed language for that. Let's see, what did Dawn say? Calling it the greater than half rather than 50% plus one. So then 908 is our added amendment for local ballot measures and the endorsement. You'll notice that the biggest change is that it is 28 days prior to the election in question, rather than, I believe, 51. So upon the close of the period for posting arguments for and against local ballot measures, the chairperson or their designees shall send a questionnaire to the proponents and opponents of any ballot measure appearing before the voters of Solano County as soon as practical after they are known. The executive board or designees shall review the questionnaires and invite the proponents and opponents who have requested an endorsement to a regular or special meeting of the Central Committee, provided that the meeting has been scheduled at least 28 days prior to the election in question. Proponents and opponents of any local ballot measure who have responded by the date specified will be given equal time to make their presentations. There shall be no obligation to make any endorsement, and members shall be offered a no preference option on the ballot. Ballot measures must receive votes from a majority, 50% plus one, of Central Committee members present and voting to be endorsed by the Central Committee. So pretty close in language. And then the 908 is now 909 because of the additional section, so it can keep going down. Same with 910 and 911. So two new sections that we did propose. For the purposes of endorsements only, the Central Committee may use electronic ballots emailed to the members, which include multiple races, and set the permitted time for voting to extend past the adjournment of the endorsement meeting. Separate ballots shall be used for each meeting. Only members who were recorded as present at some point during the meeting shall have their votes counted. Secret ballots are not permitted for any endorsement vote. So the secret ballots is actually mandatory language for CADEM. The process of the electronic ballots is what we have been doing. This formalizes it and actually makes it part of our bylaws. So that is why we added this section. The next section is regarding rescinding endorsements. There previously was no language for any rescinding of an endorsement, so this gives us the option. So the Central Committee can rescind a candidate endorsement if the motion receives votes from 2/3 of the Central Committee members present and voting, or a majority of the membership of the Central Committee, whichever is greater. To make that clear, that means if the voting body of the Central Committee is 27 members, that means that you need a bare minimum of 14 votes, no matter how many people are present at this meeting, or 2/3 of everybody that's present. So if there's 5 people there, it doesn't matter if 100% vote for it. It doesn't hit the 14 vote threshold. It needs to hit at least half. But that also means that if the entire membership is there, you need 2/3. So this is a pretty strict voting parameter in terms of rescinding an endorsement. It should be fairly hard to do. So it is actually the same thing that we do for early endorsements. A motion to rescind an endorsement shall require at least 7 days notice to the membership. If an endorsement has been rescinded, the Central Committee may call for another endorsement meeting in accordance with the provisions of Section 9.05, which basically means that you have to go through the whole process again. And if you don't have time, you don't have time. But you have to do the whole process properly. We did not change anything regarding the process. So then if we go all the way down to the end of 11, we added 2 amendments here. This is required by CADEM. 11.5, written notice when required in the bylaws may be accomplished by electronic mail, provided that notice is sent by first-class U.S. mail to all members who have not provided an electronic mail address with the secretary. That's pretty standard language. 11.6, unless and until the Central Committee adopts its own code of conduct, it incorporates the California Democratic Party's code of conduct into these bylaws. All Central Committee members are expected to comply with this code of conduct when conducting Central Committee business. Again, CADEM requirement. Now we can go down to the end of 12. This is an addition to make it clear what is an amendment and what is a bylaws review. And so amendments which are closely related in nature may be considered at the same meeting and shall not be considered a review of the bylaws as a whole upon a ruling of the chairperson. So basically, because this is all basically one amendment, we're putting the bylaws in compliance. It's an amendment. It is the rule of the chairperson as to whether or not it's an amendment or a bylaws, which can be overturned by the body if they want to challenge the chairperson. Those are the amendments as proposed. We do have a couple other comments that have been sent via email since this meeting, because we always have a couple things that come up after the fact. So Jeanette emailed asking in 905, this says e-board reviews the questionnaires. Do the members have a chance to review them as well? I believe it says e-board or designees. If you can go to 905, Tom. Or designees. So that would basically be the endorsement meeting at that point. So yes, every person would have the availability to return or to review the questionnaires. If we want to change that language, let me know. We can start talking about it. In 907, the term no preference uses the term no preference. It might be good to have a sentence saying how that affects the final vote count. It is fairly spelled out in, I believe, Robert's rules, but I could be wrong. But basically, no preference adds to the total vote. So when you're determining the number of votes needed to get to greater than half or 2/3, whichever is required. It goes to that count, but does not go to any actual vote.
I think you'll need to clarify that.
Okay.
The point of what CADM is requiring is that there is basically no preference would be is basically like another candidate.
Yes.
And so when you're counting it, consider no preference as if no preference is a candidate. And then when you're doing your calculation, that that it's not an abstention.
No, it
It
goes
is
to the
considered-
vote total.
Yes. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct. So maybe we can add something like no preference. No preference option. Which is counted as a vote.
Julia, I would suggest you actually just, if you guys have procedures regarding your endorsements, it'd be a lot easier to add it to the procedures than putting it into your endorsement, your bylaws.
I do not know that that's something.
That you have. Okay.
Yeah.
We have standing rules. Would that be the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Just trying to make sure. Okay. The other question was no more than once in 12.03, it says no more than once per term in terms of the bylaws being reviewed. That is per central committee term, which is 4 years. So once the body is sworn in April, they will have one shot at the bylaws until the next round in 2028. Let's see. Then let's see. Dawn wanted to change 901 to mean voter nominated top 2 open primary. Dawn, I kind of hate that. I don't understand what that means. So
the suggestion was to attempt to clarify the language to say, so that it would say to either shall refer to our mean voter nominated top 2 primary or shall refer to and mean, trying to make sense of CADM's language, basically.
yeah.
Or as the alternative someone suggested is we either strike shall refer to our mean and just use one or the other. In that definition, I'm certainly open to whatever the body chooses to move, unless they are comfortable with the language as it stands.
So I'm not quite sure why CADM would be suggesting this, because we have more than one primary, top 2 open primary in a 4-year cycle. And the terminology that they've used here could be in the off years, the 2 years. So the easiest way to do that is the partisan primary shall refer to, or shall mean, instead of refer to and mean, but shall be defined as the presidential or the voter nominated top 2 open primary in a presidential year.
Well,
because that's the only time that occurs. A partisan primary does not exist anywhere else.
Jeff, actually, the problem is the state party bylaws continue to use the language partisan primary other than president. And they have defined it with this language here.
Yep, I'm confusing 2 different things. So you actually, in here, you should be referring to partisan primary in your endorsements. You should only be referring to partisan primary in the election of your central committee members. Because that is the only partisan primary. By
So
definition.
this one is actually in reference to the state elections and above that we cannot make an endorsement on because the state party makes an endorsement on. So like assembly, state senate and above. Paula, go ahead.
I don't think that defining partisan primary was one of the things we needed to comply with the checklist. In which case we could like go back to this at some later time.
Yes, I do agree with you. It was not on the checklist. However, it did come up that people did not understand what it meant, which is why we had brought in the definition. Kathy, go ahead.
Yeah, I was one of the people who didn't understand what it meant, but I agree with Paula that the whole thing is confusing, and I don't know what we added if it clears it up very much, as you said, Julia. It's still so I'm suggesting maybe we just delete that last sentence, and if what Jeff says, all we need to have is a sentence about the central committees prohibited from endorsing candidates. I mean, maybe we just go with that.
Okay, Steve Young.
Yeah, a couple of comments. At 905 and 908, it makes reference to ballot measures in Solano County. But there, as we just talked about at the last election, there are certainly ballot measures that don't cover the entire county. They're just city specific.
Oh.
So I want to be sure that whatever we're doing would allow for that possibility and eventuality that, you know, like in Benicia, we came to the committee to get an endorsement for Measure A and B, but it was not a county-wide election. So I don't know if we have changed the language to reference that.
It says local ballot measures appearing before the voters of Solano County.
Right, but but it's not the voters of Solano County, it's the voters of the jurisdiction where the issue is being contested.
So we're on 908.
905 and 908.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling Tom 908 is where it's actually.
But section 902 says local shall include any Central Committee reserves the right to make endorsement in all local nonpartisan elections and in all local ballot measures for the purposes of the section. Local shall include any office whose jurisdiction is primarily within Solano County and shall include all city, county, school board, and special district offices.
So you think it's covered?
Yes.
I would say it's covered.
Okay.
I think
it might simplify, Julia, to remove the word "the" in front of voters. Before voters of Solano County. That means that you can have a smaller group rather than the entire group of voters. Small change, but could make a difference.
Yeah.
And my other comment had to do with 9.12, the endorsement voting meeting. If we always allow people, the extending the time is my concern. Why wouldn't we just keep it within the time limits of the meeting itself?
I believe we have allowed to a certain time whether or not the questionnaire or whether the questions were still going on. So I'm thinking of the meeting for for Board of Supervisors where we gave a certain amount of hours to vote whether or not the meeting went that long.
Yes, we also did the same thing in 2022 where we said that regardless of what time the meeting actually ended, the voting period would be extended to at least, I think it was 4 o'clock. But whatever the time was that day, so that there was a window so if people had left the meeting, they could still submit their ballot and have it considered turned in a timely fashion, even if the meeting adjourned earlier than they anticipated.
And just to clarify on that, it was also till a certain time or 1 hour after the meeting to accommodate for a meeting that ran over.
And then Jeff, your hand is up.
The
Yep.
last thing I was gonna say about that though was I think this allows somebody to vote without ever hearing any of the candidates on any of the things. They just gotta show up once, vote present, and then come back at any particular time and vote however they want to vote without having listened to any of the candidates. I think that's problematic.
That's always been the case, though.
Well,
Like,
it wasn't
even when we
you
had
to be
in-person
there present.
meetings,
It used to be that you had to physically be in the room.
yeah,
listening
but you
to the
didn't have to
candidates.
listen to anybody. You could
You
go
could
in,
still
grab
do
your
your-
ballot, and turn it in.
We always had a ballot that you could pick up, fill out, drop off, and head out.
And attendance when the meetings were live was always based on who signed the sign-in sheet. We did not say that they had to be there for the entire meeting. And historically, a number of people, as was said, they would show up, vote, and leave well before the meeting was over. So it is
And
in
I'm good with
keeping
that.
with our past practice. By and large, these are intended to comply with our past practice as much as possible while still complying with state party bylaws.
And we still
So,
want that to be the case. I understand it's past practice. I'm just saying it's maybe not a good practice.
And the next committee will be more than welcome to do that bylaw review as a full bylaw review. Jeff, you have been waiting for a little bit.
Yeah, as far as the partisan primary, I just took a look at the details from the old version. The simpler way of making that is just simply shall make no endorsement in races for partisan office. That is all that it means.
For partisan, do we want to make that change?
I think it clarifies it for you guys.
I think it does as well, but I do not want to be
Yep.
a lone decider. So if Tom, let me share this with you really quickly.
I also have a suggestion for you. You're going to need to consider something else as well after you take a look at this.
Okay. Tom, I just sent you the Google Doc formula or format. Oh, God. I'm sorry, my brain is broken right now. You sent it. Okay. Shall make no endorsement in races for partisan office. So suggesting. So this is the change that has been suggested.
Yep.
I think it does read a lot more clear. Tom, do you mind throwing out a poll really quickly if people want to go with this change?
Well, wait, so we're not voting on the whole thing yet.
Literally, the only thing we are voting on right now is 9.01, changing the wording from partisan primary campaigns to races for partisan office.
So how about we do this instead of a poll, because that's very confusing and for our records. Who has a problem with this? Raise your hand.
Okay.
I am seeing no hands up, therefore by consensus, the change is accepted.
Okay. Okay, Jeff, you had another point.
Yeah, so the other thing is, I heard you say something about that there are no changes in a cycle. You do need to have exceptions if CADM requires you to make a change.
Okay.
So that is just, you just need to have that in there. You don't want to catch yourself in a bind that CADM basically says, nope, your bylaws, if you can't change these for 4 years, you cannot use our endorsement until the end of this cycle.
Okay, that would be down in number 12.3. And let's go ahead and suggest If Kadam requires, well, I mean, they can still do amendments. They just can't do a full bylaws review.
Okay.
So that,
Okay, that is clarification for me. So thank you.
okay.
But
So then
one
I am
thing-
going to, which is
Wait,
why we
one-
had, which is why we threw down that last amendments which are closely related in nature, because so that we were able to do this.
But one thing, we're not changing this line, correct?
No,
So that is the open to say that the review of these bylaws as a whole shall be performed by the bylaws review at the direction of the central committee.
yes,
So
that's correct.
regardless of cycle, if the committee votes by majority to change the bylaws and to review said bylaws, then it happens.
I mean, according to these bylaws, no. That being said, then the next bylaws review, full review, can go through and change that.
So really what we're talking about is striking this.
No, what we are saying is that what we are
To
doing
meet
right
Jeff,
now.
what Jeff has said, if we strike that, then we have. That's the problem. That's the problem statement.
What he is saying is that if Kadem requires that we change our bylaws, like specific bylaws, then we need to be able to do that, which we can with amendment, not a full bylaws review.
And I'm saying our amendment now should be to strike that phrase.
Okay. Does anybody have anything they would any problem with that? Kathy says she supports. I am gonna go.
Don's hand is up.
Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, I'm just cautious because I have seen too many organizations rewrite their bylaws very regularly. And so that the membership, to say nothing of outsiders, has no clear and consistent understanding of what the rules are. An amendment or a series of amendments is a separate process than a review as a whole. And I would just caution against removing that limitation altogether.
Bonnie, go ahead.
Could it just say, and shall occur once each term? Instead of saying no more than once each term, so that it's not really limiting, but it is like saying, hey, we just want to do this once per term. I don't know if that makes sense.
So what you're saying is that would mean that it shall occur at least once per term, but can occur more than once per term, correct?
Yeah.
I think the goal is that you do it once per term. Is that correct? I mean, is that what we've been doing?
So I want to apologize for bringing this up, because what Julia was saying, based on 12.1, if CADM requires you to make a change, you can make a change based on 12.1. So that is simply an amendment. The reference that Dawn has talked about here, and that is captured in 12.3, is simply that you don't start at the beginning of your bylaws and do a whole a review of everything and make a wholesale change to the entire set.
Yes.
That is all that 12.3 is saying. So that was my error, and I don't want to muddy the waters any further here.
Okay, we got some hands up. Monica, go ahead.
My concern is that as we go through the bylaws, sometimes the concept is not valid, and not valid isn't the right word I'm looking for. Sometimes the concept just doesn't work, and you might have to just change. So I've done a lot of different bylaws, and I know a lot of people listening to this conversation have done a lot of bylaws, and sometimes anything you try and you have to make some sort of a change, but you don't do it right away. You follow Robert's Rules of Order. You have a conversation, you have a first reading, you have a second reading. Maybe people don't want to make a change, but not to ever do it. Or we might find that we want to add something, like when we added different clubs and we wanted to put something in. So I don't want to limit ourselves, So, and that's what it's sounding like right now. And maybe now isn't really the conversation that we have to have. I still don't understand why we can't maybe bring this back when we're not in stress mode, having to get it done by May 1st and work on it maybe during the summer and then come forward. And if no one likes it, then we just don't make the change, but never limit yourself.
Right. I
So
think that's what I was saying. You know, we just keep it, well, and do we review them once a year? I mean, once a term? That was my question that was not answered. Thanks.
I don't think it has been every term. It has been most terms. That being said, I will say this. This is not a full bylaws review. This is an amendment to the bylaws for the endorsements to comply with CADEM. So if the next body who will be sworn in April would like to get rid of the no more than once each term, they are more than welcome to do a full bylaws review and make that change. So this is not the end of the possibility for that. So in April, they are more than, the new term will be more than able to do a whole entire bylaws review and determine whether or not they want that statement in there. That being said, there is enough controversy that Tom, if
Yeah, let's
you
just
could,
take it out. Just leave it.
oh no, I was going to say, can you please put it in a poll?
I withdraw my request because Jeff is the reason I made that.
Okay.
So I blame him.
You can't just blame people.
No, yeah, he's the one who said that we had to be able to dictate it.
No, it's totally fine. I am more than happy to do
Let's just
whatever.
So we can amend the bylaws later if we want to.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
yeah.
So
So I think there's so much there. We do need more time to discuss that one point.
I-
So we'll do it later.
I fully agree with that. I will go ahead and rescind that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to delete that as a
So now you find out that you
suggestion.
can't.
And
No.
and so this is what we have right now. If you want to go back up to the top so we can kind of read top to bottom, I'm actually going to delete this one. Actually, okay. So in 901, the Central Committee shall make no endorsement in races for partisan office and shall automatically endorse any candidate who has received the Central Democratic Party's endorsement for partisan office in the manner prescribed by law. The Central Committee is prohibited from endorsing candidates running for the County Central Committee. The Central Committee reserves itself the right to make endorsements in all local nonpartisan elections for office and in all local ballot measures. For the purposes of this section, local shall include any office whose jurisdiction is primarily within Solano County and shall include all city, county, school board, and special district offices. Prior to the close of the filing period for local elections, the Central Committee shall approve questionnaires to be sent to Democratic candidates for local office and to the proponents and opponents of any ballot measure appearing before. Are we okay with taking out the word the? Okay, I'm not hearing any no's, so I'm going to go ahead and accept that. Okay, before voters of Solano County. All questionnaires shall specifically ask the candidate or opponents of a ballot measure whether the endorsement of the Central Committee is requested. Upon the close of the filing period for local elections, the chairperson or their designees shall obtain from the Solano County Registrar of Voters a list of all candidates for local office, including partisan registration and the contents of any local ballot measure facing the voters. The chairperson or their designee shall, as soon as practicable, send the approved questionnaire to all Democratic candidates for office. The executive board or designees shall review all returned questionnaires and shall invite all Democratic candidates who have requested the endorsement to a regular or special meeting of the Central Committee, provided that the meetings be scheduled at least 57 days prior to the election in question. Every effort shall be made to schedule the appearance of all candidates for a specific office at the same meeting. The Central Committee shall interview each Democratic candidate for office seeking endorsement and shall schedule an equal time for each interview. Chartered clubs of the SCDCC may, at their discretion and through such procedures as the club adopts, make the recommendations regarding the endorsement of local candidates or ballot measures to the Central Committee presented by the club representative at the Central Committee's endorsement meetings. The Central Committee shall vote on which endorsements if, oh shoot, we never changed the 50+1. I'm sorry, I'm gonna change that to greater than half. And as long as everybody is okay with me changing it to greater than half. Okay, hearing no cries of foul play, I'm gonna go ahead and accept this. Candidates must receive votes from a majority greater than half of the Central Committee members present and voting to be endorsed by the Central Committee. Upon the close of the period for posting arguments for and against local ballot measures, the chairperson or their designees shall send a questionnaire to proponents and opponents of any ballot measure appearing before voters of Solano County as soon as practical after they are known. The executive board or designees shall review the questionnaires and invite the proponents and opponents who have requested endorsement to a regular or special meeting of the Central Committee, provided that the meetings to be scheduled at least 28 days prior to the election in question. Proponents and opponents of any local ballot measure who have responded by the date specified will be given equal time to make their presentations. There shall be no obligation to make any endorsement, and members shall be offered a no preference option on the ballot. Ballot measures must receive votes from a majority greater than half of the Central Committee members present and voting to be endorsed by the Central Committee. Endorsement of a candidate or ballot measure position shall be separate from the question of financial contribution to that candidate, and no vote on financial contribution shall be made until all questions of endorsement have been decided, except that candidates and ballot measure positions receiving early endorsement may be considered for financial contributions prior to the close of filing period. The Central Committee shall consider making endorsements in local elections prior to the close of filing period, also known as early endorsement, upon the approval of majority of members present and voted to place consideration on the agenda at the following regular meeting of the Central Committee, provided there is a separate motion for each office or issue, which shall be considered for early endorsement. The chairperson or its designee or their designee shall, as soon as practicable, identify and notify all generally recognized Democratic candidates for the office in question that early endorsement has been placed upon the agenda, shall ensure that the candidates have access to the approved questionnaire for the offices in question, shall invite those Democratic candidates who have requested endorsement to attend the meeting debating early endorsement. If the advocates supporting or opposing proposed ballot measures seek early endorsement, the chairperson or really missed that one, guys, or their designee shall make all reasonable efforts to identify and notify opposing viewpoint for early endorsement being considered. Shall ensure both parties have access to approved questionnaire, shall invite advocates requesting endorsement to attend the meeting. Notice of any meeting considering early endorsement shall be sent at least 10 days prior to the meeting, or consideration of endorsement must be stricken from the agenda. Consideration of early endorsement shall be subject to the provisions of 906 and 907, except the candidates must receive votes from 2/3 of the Central Committee members present and voting, or a majority of the voting membership of the Central Committee, whichever is greater, to receive early endorsement by the Central Committee. Consideration of early endorsement shall not preclude the Central Committee from endorsing candidates or ballot measures following close of the filing period in any race for which endorsements have not been made. For the purposes of endorsements only, the Central Committee may use electronic ballots emailed to members, which include multiple races, and set the permitted time for voting to extend past the meeting adjournment of the endorsement meeting. Separate ballots shall be used for each meeting. Only members who were recorded as present at some point during the meeting shall have their votes counted. Secret ballots are not permitted for any endorsement vote. The Central Committee can rescind a candidate endorsement if the motion receives votes from 2/3 of the Central Committee members present and voting, or a majority of the voting membership of the Central Committee, whichever is greater. A motion to rescind an endorsement shall require at least 7 days notice to the membership. If an endorsement has been rescinded, I don't know what that 5 is. Sorry. The Central Committee may call for another endorsement meeting in accordance with the provisions of Section 905. Okay,
You have a number of hands up, Julia.
I'm sorry. Yes, Dawn, go ahead. You are number 1 in my list.
Yeah, back up to 902,
Yes.
which is when I raised my hand. Just to address and hopefully clarify the question that Mary Young had earlier, I would change in the sentence, change section to article, so that we're clear that local covers everything, the entire article.
Am I looking?
902,
Oh,
the
this
second
article.
line.
Okay. I am not hearing any screams of no thank you. So I will go with that.
And then
Go ahead.
perhaps I'm anticipating Jeanette's comment, but I do think we need to have language clarifying that the Central Committee members will receive the questionnaires, at least of those who have requested endorsement. The intent of the language was that the executive board would review to identify who had requested endorsement, not that they'd be the sole questionnaires. So it would be good to clarify that. But with that said, I'll hush and let let the next speaker have the floor.
Go ahead, Jeanette.
Well, thank you, Don. And I was just coming home from the meeting when I turned it on and I heard you discussing this, and it was said, well, that means everyone can see it. But if I'm not a designee or on the e-board, to me, that says I can't see it. So only those who are designated can see it. So yes, I agree, Don. That is, I do have problem with that language. And in the past, we've had a wonderful thing because our information person, Tom, made it available to everyone by sending it out in such a wonderful way. But that's not in the bylaws. And the next person who's although it's our past practice, that's not what this says. So I want to say the executive board and all members, may be able to read the things, because can review the returned questionnaires. So really, all members basically should be. So
do you want it to say this? The executive board and all members are able to review all returned questionnaires?
That's what I want, yes. But so we're not inviting all the other people. So that's so again, that can be clarified maybe in the standing rules, but I just had it to be changed the way it was stated, because the way it was stated, it was exclusive.
Okay. Donna,
you could just say the returned questionnaire shall be available to any member of the executive board, any member of the Solano County Democratic Central Committee. Return questionnaire shall be available to all members. The executive board shall invite the candidates who've requested them, something like that.
Okay, Dawn, go ahead and respond.
Yeah, I think the intent, and I thank Julia for bringing it up. There's Jeanette for bringing it up. I think the language is not clear. The intent was that the executive board or whoever they designate, whether it be an endorsement committee or whatever, should review the questionnaire and determine who had requested endorsement and everything prior to. I think so I would not lump them together. I think we should add language saying that the membership shall receive the questionnaires for all candidates seeking endorsement. And then add an equivalent line down with the ballot measures that
I don't,
all ballot
I don't know if you
measures.
want to say shall receive. I would just say will be made available, because
Or
if you say
have
shall receive, yeah,
have access to.
have access to, yeah.
If you say have access to, you can always put it in a Google Drive and send out a link.
Right.
If you say receive, they actually have to have a copy in their
Right.
inbox.
Right. Which is, thank you, Tom, what we've had, but that's not, you want to be careful with what is.
Does that work?
Practical.
It is practicable in a lot of the other language, which is why I chose practicable. I realize it is a stupid word.
I looked it up during the meeting, and it's as soon as it can be put into practice. So
Who knew?
Yeah. Okay. Are we okay with that language?
Yes.
Okay, then
And
I'm gonna go
copy
ahead.
that down to
Yep.
the
Got it,
ballot.
908. It's already there. Okay, so that takes care of Jeanette's one of Jeanette's concerns. So do we have any other concerns with Article 9? Okay. Seeing no hands, I am gonna keep going into Article 11, which I will only read off the additional sections. 11.5, written notice when required in these bylaws may be accomplished by electronic mail, provided notice is sent by first class US mail to all members who have not provided an electronic mail address with the secretary. 11.6, unless and until the Central Committee adopts its own code of conduct, it incorporates the California Democratic Party's code of conduct into these bylaws. All Central Committee members are expected to comply with this code of conduct when conducting Central Committee business. Okay. Do I see any hands? I do not. Okay, we're going to move down to 12.3. Review of these bylaws as a whole shall be reformed by the Bylaws and Rules Committee only at the direction of the Central Committee and shall occur no more than once each term. Proposed bylaw revisions shall be presented to the membership at a regularly called meeting, and amendments may be proposed and adopted by the membership during discussion, but no final approval of revised bylaws shall occur until the next regularly called meeting. Final approval of revised bylaws shall require 2/3 vote of members present and voting. 7 days notice of such intent having been given. The addition of amendments which are closely related in nature may be considered at the same meeting and shall not be considered a review of the bylaws as a whole upon ruling of the chairperson. So that is all of the amendments that have made. Jeanette, you're muted.
So one quick question, at the direction of the Central Committee, is that the majority of the Central Committee, a simple majority, or it doesn't take more than 2/3?
It's not clear. And that is something that the next Central Committee is going to have to take up. We did not get into changing anything beyond what we needed to change in order to make this bylaws amendment, and so that we would be in compliance with CODEM to get our endorsements endorsed by the state party.
Clear enough.
But generally, under Robert's rules, if something is not designated specifically as a 2/3, it is a majority. And so under that default, it is likely to be that that a parliamentarian would rule this as majority.
Yep.
Not just a single member designation.
Right. Or executive board by themselves.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Julia. This is the last call for any proposed changes to this language. Because we need to be able to send out the final language for review by the membership before we approve it at the meeting, which hopefully we'll agree to scheduling shortly. So Anything else? Not seeing any hands, I would entertain a motion to accept the report of the bylaws committee.
This is
I'll-
Paula, so moved.
Tiffany,
this is
your hands up.
Kathy.
I was gonna second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. I don't know if we have a poll, Tom, but if not, do we have a poll to accept the report?
Give me one moment. There you go. In seconds. Okay. Motion passes. It's approved.
Right, thank you. I want to thank again Julia as parliamentarian and all the people who worked on this, including Paula and Kathy and Michelle and Pat and everyone else whose name I'm blanking on at the moment. I know you did a yeoman's work in going through this and making it happen. So thank you all. Moving on to the legislation committee, you submitted a written report. Do you have anything to add at this time, or can we accept the report as written?
Yes, just quickly, I just want to invite folks, if they have bills that they think we should review, please let me know. And also, if anyone would like to join us, anyone from this committee is certainly welcome. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is to schedule the special meeting to approve bylaws amendments. Our regional director has advised that we should have the entire process completed by the current membership so that there are no questions of procedure. We have proposed having that meeting on Saturday, April 6th. I did not propose a time. Someone suggested 9:30 as the starting time for that process to approve, hold the final vote to approve these amendments. I'll entertain any suggestions as to an appropriate time. Monica, your hand's up.
Yeah, I move that we start the meeting at 9:30 on Saturday, April 6th.
Okay, Julia, your hand's next.
Somebody else is gonna have to do the presentation. We have gymnastics on Saturday morning.
Okay, how late does that go?
10:30.
Okay. Are you available at 10:30?
I mean, I'm driving home.
Probably 11.
Can we do it at 11?
Can I move, can I
Or
move
somebody
that we
else
meet
can
at
do it.
11 a.m.?
Point of order.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
there's a motion. I understand.
Although there wasn't quite, I don't think I heard a second per se, but Monica,
Kathy Carriage has 9:30. Sounds good to me in the chat.
that's not a
Yeah,
formal
but
second.
Julia hadn't spoken yet about the conflict, so I don't.
So, Bonnie, your hand was up next.
I don't want to be out of order, but I would move that we meet at 11 a.m. when, as if Julia is available at that time, because I definitely don't think we can do it without her.
Okay, two competing motions. So, Lynette, I will take you next, and then
Thank you. I had to get off of mute. We have a regional meeting on Saturday from 10 to whatever time. I don't remember what time it's over with. But those of us that are delegates and are not required but should be at that meeting. And so there's a conflict. So if we start at 11, that might diminish some of the conflict for those of us that have to attend that other meeting.
okay.
That's my 2 cents.
The regional meeting is from 10 to 12.
Okay, and what is that on the April
Point,
6th?
point of information. I thought the regional meeting was on March 30th, not
You're right. I'm
not
sorry.
April
I have the wrong
6th.
date. Look at the wrong calendar. My bad. Thank
No
you.
problem. I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, do we have a second for either time? Either 9:30 or 11?
This is Paula. I second 9:30.
Okay, so 9:30 has been seconded. Lynette, is your hand still up, or do you wish to speak again?
Trying to take it down.
Okay, Monica,
I'm being selfish, I know, and thank you for the second, but I get myself booked way ahead of time, and I just don't want to, because I have a job, which I know and I understand being a parent is important. Do not get that. It's just that I want to be able to participate, which I thank you for the second for 9:30. Otherwise, I have to cancel something or whatever. And so anyway, so that's why I was proposing early enough in the morning. So
That's fine. I will not be participating if it's at 9:30.
okay. Um, since I did not hear the motion being withdrawn and it has a second, unless there is someone makes a motion to change the time. Jeanette? See your
I think
hands up?
I think it would be good to know if someone could take the place of Julia and do the presentation who's been in the meeting before we vote on it, and then we vote for a 9:30 meeting and there's no one to give the presentation. So can we ask if someone would do that at 9:30?
Paula, your hands up.
I would be happy to do that. I'm the
Okay,
one
that
that
gives us
wrote the PDF that has the changes in it anyway.
great. Then I feel better about making a vote. Thank you.
Okay. Pat, your hand is next.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I second that Paula do it. I think she'd do a great job. So
All right. Okay. Before I call the poll, I'm just going to look around, make sure I'm not seeing any hands for a substitute or amendment. With that, seeing none, Tom, do we have a poll for a 9:30 start?
Yes, I just couldn't get off mute to say yes, and the
All right,
poll.
thank you. And just to clarify for everyone, the meeting would be via Zoom.
Don, will it be limited to this bylaw review?
Yeah, it's a special meeting.
Okay.
In seconds? It's time. What's the threshold? So is it, because we didn't have as many people voting in this one as we did in this one.
It's would be a majority of those present and voting, so would be the major, whether or not we have a majority of the votes cast from ballot.
Okay, then no, never mind. There's 23 people. 14 voted yes.
Okay, so it's yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, folks, thank you. And then the next item on the agenda was, as stated earlier, our new members will take office at our April meeting, and it's been suggested that we hold that meeting in person, so that we can all get to meet and greet our new members and see each other in person outside of a fundraiser. And I reached out to Monica to see if there's space available at the county building. And I believe she has secured space. So Kathy, I see your hands up.
Oh, I was just going to ask where. I jumped the gun.
It's not going to be at the event center where we have the awards. It's going to be where we normally met on the first floor.
The multi-purpose room.
I call it the classrooms also. It'll be the classrooms. I'll make sure that I'll talk with Tim to make sure that the Wi-Fi is a lot better and see if we can, because I know there was an issue with that. But for those of you who haven't been there, I'll make sure all 3 rooms are open so there'll be space between folks. So it should be okay. And there's plenty of parking. You can park in the garage. And there's security till 10 o'clock. And we don't have to pay for that.
Okay, so as you heard, we do have the space booked if people wish to meet in person. So that is the proposal. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve holding the April meeting in person.
This is
I
Paula,
move that.
so moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? I'm not seeing any hands go up, so if we have a poll ready, please, or as soon as we have a poll ready, I should say, please launch it.
I heard that yawn.
Sorry about that.
Is quite all right. Thank you all for being stalwart soldiers and seeing it through to the end.
And seconds. Okay. Motion passes with 14 votes.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. We will see you in person. I will note, just to circle back to the earlier item, that we will, of course, need to have an amended PDF prepared that captures all of the changes we made at tonight's meeting on the bylaws so that they can be mailed out to the members. Does anyone have anything for the good of the order before I move to adjournment?
Don, how are we getting the email addresses for the new members?
Actually, I have already obtained those.
Okay, you can send them to me. I'll add them to the group.
So, Jeff, your
So,
hands up.
as was mentioned prior, there is a regional meeting this Saturday, not the 6th, but so there's a regional meeting this Saturday from 10 to noon. If you would like to attend, just access the website at region3dems.com, click on the calendar, and then you can register for the meeting. And it does require pre-registration, but just register and we'll see you on Saturday.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Monica.
I just want to make sure we adjourned in memory of Jerry's mom. And also, Joe Lieberman passed away. And I know that toward the end, he became an independent, but he lived through the hanging chads, except for the Supreme Court ruling. He could have been the vice president. And I just thought, after 82 years old and everything that he did, that we should adjourn in his memory also.
Okay.
Yes, I would say, like many elected officials, you can certainly find aspects of his record you disagree with, but also much to admire. And as was pointed out, he was our party's vice presidential nominee in the year 2000. Bonnie, I see your hands up.
Yes, thank you. I just want to just make sure we give a shout out to Julia for all the work she did on the bylaws. She really did a lot of work, and it's, I mean, I understand the conflicts, but it's unfortunate that she can't be there to see it come to fruition. But I just want to make sure we give her that recognition.
Yes, once again, thank you, Julia, for your hard work. Tom, working at you, and I couldn't remember what your name was.
What was that name for the poll, Monica? If you could put it in chat.
It's Senator Joe Lieberman.
Oh, Jolie. Oh, okay.
As well as
that is not what I heard.
Jerry Castanel's mom, and for that matter, the 6. Let's not also forget the 6 construction workers who were killed on the Francis Scott Key Bridge.
Yeah, excellent. That's, yeah, thank you for doing that.
They just found 2 of them.
Yeah, they were still in their car. Yeah.
I will while that is getting done, I will just say, in accordance with 2 faith traditions, may eternal light shine upon them, and may their blessings be a memory. So if you were ready to launch the adjournment poll, Tom.
Or click the red button.
It was the Francis Scott Key Bridge.
Yes.
Sorry, my mind played tricks. I wanted to say Francis Key Scott.
And with that, everyone, as soon as the poll is concluded, I'm assuming that we will be adjourned. I want to thank you all again. And we will see you virtually on April 6th. And in person in April on the 24th.
Don, do we want to just use this meeting link? So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's keep it simple.
I agree. Okay, so you'll come to the same meeting link, folks, on the 6th. There'll be a note out, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
5 seconds left to vote, or else we don't get adjourned. Vote early, vote often. All right, there we go. It's done.
All right.
Okay, so it passes and 1 nay. Don't understand that, but whatever.
Okay. I guess some people still want to talk some more, but too bad. The
Yeah.
meeting is adjourned.
We are done.
Congrats, Glenn.
Yeah.
Thank
Dang
you,
it.
Jeff.
Congratulations, Glenn. I apologize.
No,
it was on my mind until the meeting started.
I came near the end there because of another in-person meeting. Thank you, everyone. Looking forward to our next steps as movements working together.
Yeah, for those of you who did not get the notice that Glenn is the new executive director for the Central Labor Council. And we look forward to a productive partnership.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
Later. Bye.
All right.